What's up, everybody? This is WiseGuyBets here coming to you with some Major League picks from 5/11/2021. We're looking at the main slate for DraftKings. Got 12 games on that main slate, so let's jump right into it. The pitcher I'm looking at for today is Brady Singer. He has 29 strikeouts on the year. I love pitchers who do strikeouts. His projection for today is 15.1. He had 9 fantasy points in his last game. Against Detroit, he has had in his last 3 outings 32, 26, and 32 fantasy points against Detroit. So obviously he likes Detroit. So Springer at 5,700, which is a great price. He is on the road, but I think it's someone you want to try to get into your lineups today. Let's move right on to the catcher position. At the catcher position, this guy's at the top of our list, Mr. Realmuto. He has a projection of 8.8 for today. He has a batting average of 313, which is very good. He has 10 fantasy points in his last game. He in his last game against Washington, in his last 3 games against Washington, he's had 11, 3, and 5. He has an on-base percentage against righties of 846, which is pretty good. He's 3 for 11 in his career versus the pitcher for Washington, and he has 1 home run against that pitcher. So Mr. JT Realmuto is somebody we're trying to get in our lineups for today at the catcher position. Let's look at first base. First base, we're going to look at Eric Hosmer for San Diego. This is a game that was canceled yesterday. We still have a 9.5 point total. I think the same pitchers are going today. The over-under yesterday was 10. Today it's 9.5. He has 4 home runs on the year. His projection is 8.2 for today. He is 13 points in his last game. He did have good success against Colorado up until his last game, but his previous 3 games before that, he had 22, 21, 3 fantasy points against Colorado. So I still think this is someone you want to get into your lineup. He's 6 for 17, batting 353 against the Colorado pitcher with 1 home run. So Mr. Hosmer is someone we want to get in our lineups today at first base. Let's look at second base. Second base, we're going to look at Marcus Semien for the Toronto Blue Jays. He is currently on this year batting 262. He has 8 home runs and a projection of 8.3 fantasy points for today. In his last game, he had 8 fantasy points, and on the season, he's averaging 9 fantasy points, which is very good. It's someone you probably want to get in your lineups, especially on cash. It seems like he comes through on most days. He hasn't faced Mr. Wilson. Mr. Wilson gives up pretty hefty numbers to lefties, righties, and switch hitters. So Mr. Semien is someone I'm really looking at to get in my lineup today. He in his last game against Atlanta, he had 25 fantasy points. In his last 3 games overall, he's had 8, 22, and 5. And I do like that average of 9 fantasy points. That means he's doing this thing basically every day. He has an on-base percentage of 0.808. Let's go to third baseman. At third base, we're looking at Manny Machado. Same pick from yesterday, same game, and for the same reasons. Mr. Machado is 5 for 13, batting 385 against the Colorado pitcher. He's going to do some damage, I think. He's going to get on base, and having a day off is only going to help him. In his last 3 games, he's only had 5, 5, and 7. But I expect this is could be a bounce back game for him. I expect a home run from him. He actually has a pretty good projection of 9.4 fantasy points for today. So Mr. Machado is someone we want to get in our lineup at third base today. Let's move to shortstop position. Shortstop position, we're going to take the obvious choice here, Mr. Fernando Tatis Jr. Projection of 10.2 fantasy points for the day. He has 9 home runs on the year. In his last 2 games, he's had 16 and 21 fantasy points. He is currently batting 3 for 12 against the Colorado pitcher. And he is pretty hot right now. 2016 and 21 fantasy points. That is real good. Even though his numbers against Colorado haven't been that great in the last 5 games, he did have 1 game where he had 28 fantasy points. I like Mr. Tatis Jr. in this spot today with a day off, especially. I like guys coming off a day off. We may expect to see a home run from him also today. So try to get Mr. Fernando Tatis Jr. in our lineups. Let's look at the outfield. Our outfield choice for today is Ronald Acuna Jr. for Atlanta. His projection is 10.6, very high. I think it's the second highest for the day. He has 10 home runs on the season. He's batting .305. In his last 3 games, he's had 5, 2, and 9 in his last game. Against this pitcher, he's 3 for 6 with 2 home runs against this pitcher. I mean, you pretty much can't get any better than that. Mr. Acuna Jr. is someone we definitely want to get in our lineups today. Against Toronto, he's been up and down. In his last 3 games against Toronto, he's had 7, 21, and 2 fantasy points. 2 fantasy points just means he got on base and didn't do anything else. I expect him to do a lot more than that today. And his average for the year is 12 fantasy points in 32 games. You cannot beat that. He's one of these guys you should try to get in on your cash lineups whenever you can. Him, Mike Trout, just a few guys you always want to try to get in your cash lineups because they're going to produce more than not. So those are our picks today for MLB. The tool we're using is Draft Dashboard to quickly get some insight on players and what we expect them to do. And you can go dig deeper further into these players. Be sure to look out for the weather today. The weather's going crazy, especially in the southern parts of the country with a lot of rain and stuff. But hey, until tomorrow, until our next DFS picks, peace.